Hey everybody.
Hello.
Welcome back,
Welcome back.
to our podcast, Coconut Chronicles. A coconut's diary through South Africa. I always have to plug in that part, very important. This is a diary, stories, experiences that you guys obviously are tuning into from the coconut experience in South Africa.
Yes, and we are so grateful that you are here. We would just like to introduce ourselves. I am Abigail, and this is my co-host,
Rita.
And in this podcast, we'll be touching on the much shied away topic of being a coconut in South Africa.
Absolutely.
Why we wanted to create this channel, to create this podcast, was to create a safe space for everyone to share their stories and just experiences, community, and we just really want to build a community here. And you can consider us the aunties of all things coconut.
Aunties, if you could say. Yeah.
Yes.
Obviously, you guys know the drill. Please subscribe to our channel, Coconut Chronicles ZA.
Yes.
That's across all our socials. So including Twitter, we're on Instagram, Coconut Chronicles ZA, as I've said. But on TikTok, it's just Coconut Chronicles. So please, whenever you search us, just remind that. Follow, tag us, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I always love saying that. And yeah, please join the family. It's time to go into questions, right?
Yes, and we promise if you guys followed up from last week's episode, if you haven't, please check out that episode. But we did promise a lighter
Yes,
episode,
we did, yeah.
And we are going to be tackling
a coconut in the spotlight.
Yes, and media representation.
Absolutely. And I mean, I guess on a more lighthearted kind of tone, we are going to kind of touch on just the comics or the comical characters that coconuts have been made in media. But we're also going to talk about the seriousness of that. Like, are these things damaging? Are they actually helpful? Or is it just creating a very false narrative of coconuts? Let's unpack all the things and have fun with it. We can try.
We could try, but I think one thing that cannot be ignored, especially in this day and age of social media, is just the power that media has to tell a story.
Yeah.
Whether ethically it's correct can sometimes be put into question.
Yeah.
We have to hold the media accountable because sometimes it can turn into a zoo. And we do not want that.
That is true. Yeah, yes. We really don't, especially in this day and age, especially with technology. Things run wild. Okay,
that is true.
We really need to ensure that the narrative is clear and fair, should we say. But all right, so going into our first question here, Abs, can I ask, darling, what have you seen in the media regarding coconuts?
I would just like to remind everyone that I came from an extremely British and I was later introduced to American television by the time I was probably about 12, 13. Mm-hmm. So I do not have a lot of context on South African media, I must admit. I do remember inklings years ago around a show called The Coconuts. But in my experience of the launch of the show, and take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt, just this is my experience, is that it wasn't... I personally didn't resonate with the show.
Yeah,
I thought it was a little bit silly in a way.
Yeah. Which probably was the point. Who knows?
Yeah, it probably was, but I shied away from that. And I was careful about what media I wanted to associate with because the connotation is just too powerful.
Yeah, no, I think even on that I can relate. So from just what was out there, I think with the term coconut or coconut character, it was very much done in that coconut show, that was like my first exposure, if I could say. Like, I don't remember anything really kind of, should I say, regarding it or really spotlighting the term coconut as much as it did in that show. And kind of looking back, having to research, like, what coconut shows are there or what coconut characters? And there's obviously not much, as we know, and this is why we want to talk about it. It was quite comical in the show. It had a comedic tone, and apparently the whole storyline was actually it was about a white family turning into a black family or whatnot. There were some storyline. I do not remember that. By the way, I'm like, are you sure it was a white family trapped in a black like I didn't understand. Like I was like, what do you mean? But then apparently, just looking back on Google, and Google will save you, we found out that actually that was the whole storyline, and that's why we saw quite the exaggerated tones of of clearly a white person trapped in a black body, right? So I think just from those references, it definitely it felt like it was like a punchline kind of situation. It was
Absolutely.
a character that had to kind of be toyed with. Don't take seriously these types of people. They seem like they just want to fit in with the wide world of affluence and all of those kind of Western spaces. But I didn't resonate. I have to agree with you. I was like, it wasn't something that I could actually be like, oh, I see myself. Yes, they're pulling off the white accent really well, but like, that's it. It didn't feel real to my experience is what I want to say.
And just something that just when you were talking, it just made me think, when you think of media I think intent also comes to question, because the show was intended to be light, funny, playing to South African stereotypes, and then the question really does become, is that harmful or is it helpful?
Very, very good question, darling. And I have to, I think that one of the powerful things of media is that it is exposing, right? A certain group of people. Whenever media shows up for anything, it's speaking to like a certain group of people, right? It's helping us to learn something about those people. It's helping us to learn about a subject, a topic, all the good things. Do I feel that I got kind of a holistic view of what a coconut is, could be, thinks like, acts like? I can't say it was in the most tasteful. It wasn't fully done in the most tasteful way, I have to say. But I understand the purposes of it. It is from a comedic background. Like, I'm not going to take that away. But I do wish there was just a lot more shows that could have just touched on this with a more realistic take. Like, not all coconuts are the same. Like, don't paint us with all the same brushes, guys. Because I think even as we, kind of expand into what other medias or mediums have expressed the coconut topic, right? One of the things that I've been kind of annoyed by is that you'll kind of get a coconut reference if you see a cheese girl, for example, right, in one of the series, or somebody who's extremely affluent in whatever suburbanville, and all of a sudden, they stretching out their A's and their R's, and they've got like a little bit of a snobbery, right, and they've got the polished accent, and everybody's like, oh, that one is not one of us, and it's those subtle references of coconut, but that's not coconut, you know what I mean? Like you're alluding to a class, I could say, right? That I'm not going to say all coconuts live in that class, absolutely not. But those are the only kind of references like that come to my mind that I'm like, is that all we got like in the media?
And I just want to, as you were talking, it just made me realize that in my understandings and stereotypes and experiences with people calling me a coconut is when you get fed misinformation and these stereotypes, you don't have any other reference points, so you actually make them your truth.
Yeah.
And people immediately start to make assumptions about you, and then when you don't fit into those assumptions, it's just like, well, I've heard it thousands of times, so you are, like, you're the suspect one. It's not the stereotype, because the stereotypes have been pervasively told over and over and over again, so that you actually start to believe those stereotypes.
Exactly.
And you don't allow people to actually just come and say, oh.
Absolutely. And I think this is obviously what this platform is here for. Like, we really do need to like break that. One of the things, and I know we'll get into this, but like, I really do hope to see, a little bit of variety when it comes to coconuts. Like, we need to see different backgrounds, different shades, different characters, different mindsets. One of the very harmful things I think that I hope the media does start kind of bridging away from when it comes to this coconut, should I say, image, is that coconuts are not ignorant, right? And that even in just real time, like physically experiencing this, I feel like the media has definitely helped project that. Like, people think you're ignorant. People think you're just, this one, she knows nothing. Go to Soweto, you'll be fine. When? Like, there's this, oh, she just needs to break out of her suburban bubble and oh, she's going to be all right. You know, there's really this, very just, what's this, one-liner here across all coconuts that's just been slapped with ignorance. And I think we need to just rub it off. We need to, let's break out of it. Let's really express like all these different is it characters, different ways of understanding what a coconut is, right?
It's just about being a human.
Absolutely. Like,
your experiences are going to be completely different to everyone else's, and it doesn't make your experiences any less valid.
Absolutely.
And I can attest to what you're saying as well. I've often been teased as just being like an airhead.
Yeah.
Who's ignorant.
Girl.
Who just cares about money, who doesn't have real connection.
Do you even know what a taxi is? Do you even know, like, do you know what a mlungu means? Like, ma'am, I think we all got it. You know, let's not try to, what's the word? Like, be rude. Yeah. Let me simplify it that way because I was about to say other words out here. But let's not be rude, in terms of educating or even just like bridging our experiences. But we can definitely say here with confidence, coconuts are really just not the same, and they're not this ignorant airhead bubble thing. We do want to actually bridge into more communities. We want to learn. I mean, I can definitely say like the experiences that we've had, that we're quite adventurous at heart. We try to actually like learn from other people, right? And we've always tried to actually even knock on other doors to learn other cultures, but it's not always received
no,
with a kind smile and a welcome.
No, it's almost like you're intruding in this space. You don't belong here. We have had incidences where we both took taxis, where we were mass bullied in the taxi.
It was fun though.
It was funny. We just stepped out of there. We looked at each other
and just bursted out laughing, honestly. And it's funny enough. I mean, we'll dig into those beautiful stories because you would be surprised who was our jail card in those moments. It wasn't your taxi drivers. It wasn't our neighbors on the seats. It was actually our elders in the car, in the taxis, helping us to get to our points. You'd be surprised. Like, and this is what I love about our country, is that South Africans would really surprise you. Like, how else can I say it? So the very, uncommon denominator, if you could say, will surprise you in terms of, kind of bridging over to different races, different cultures, learning about one another. And it's really the thing of starting of opening that door,
Yeah. It shows that there's room for compassion. It's just that we're choosing not to actually explore it.
Absolutely. Cool. All righty. Going into our second question, Madame. Abigail, can you please tell me, how can representation be made more inclusive with coconuts in all varieties?
What I loved, I don't know if you've heard about this African-American film called American Fiction.
Tell me about it.
What I loved about this premise is that it took stereotypes and flipped it. So the basic overarching story is, and we don't want to spoil it, and we would really love you to watch this movie, and please comment down below if you have actually seen this movie and just your thoughts on it. This African-American writer, he realizes that these successful writers that are making it big because they're perpetuating these racial stereotypes about black people that make white people comfortable. So for argument's sake, and then this was done in an African-American culture. So it was the classic ratchet kind of black woman, like, yeah, Shakwisha, like, I ain't your baby mama's, na. And then she got rewarded for this. It was like this absolute amazing representation into black literacy, and it was like this whole thing. And then this guy started calling her out, and he was just like, but this is absolutely ridiculous. And then he kind of gets this idea in his head that he's going to write like this book with the most aggressive racial stereotypes as a joke, as a retaliation, because he's trying to get his book out as well, which is not into these stereotypes, and it challenges that, but his book wasn't getting published. It wasn't really picking up on stuff. So he goes, challenges, challenges, challenges. And it's all a joke, ha 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 ha. So he hands it into his publisher, because the publisher's just like, we need more black stories. So he's just like, I'll show you. Hands the most like racially stereotyped, like every cliche that you can think of. The book blows up. And now he's like stuck in this thing of, this was a joke. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this book was an absolute joke. Like, what are you talking about?
This is trash.
This is trash. This is literally a satire on this. Don't take this seriously. But it's too late by then, because people have read this absolutely amazing, engaging story around narratives around black people that they like and feel comfortable with. And then he was just like, what do I do now? So he just had to play into the stereotype, and he eventually ended up becoming the thing that he didn't want to actually become. And I think what I loved about that in terms of its commentary on representation is that it highlights just how dangerous stereotypes can be, and just how much media influences us to stay in boxes, to appeal to certain groups, to manipulate our own identities. And he thought it was a joke, you know, it was just like, oh, you know. And what I just absolutely loved about it is that it makes such an interesting commentary on how we do not allow people to fit outside of boxes. We don't allow that. And as soon as we realize, okay, this is what makes other people comfortable, I'm going to cater to that, because I'm going to be more accepted. I'm going to be considered cool, hip, whatever you want to be considered, like edgy, part of everything. But it actually doesn't allow us to challenge that, grow our own identities. And I think what's interesting about the book is that it also points out just how second nature-y this is our second nature. It's almost become second nature that we don't even realize when it's happening, because it's just been so normalized. And I just think what I love about it is that it's challenging those ideas. It's saying, this is why representation matters.
Absolutely.
And that is just one of the, like, that's such a powerful message. And by the way, the movie is really funny. It doesn't actually take itself too seriously. And I think that is also was just such a powerful tool, is that it was still delivering a serious message, but with compassion.
There we go.
It wasn't this ridicule. It wasn't, this attack on this and attack on this. It was just pointing out these things that we hadn't noticed, but it did it through a lens of compassion.
Absolutely. Wow. I mean, just hearing the synopsis on that makes me want to watch it. I think we need to get our viewers definitely on that, and even just hear people's take, right? People's POV, should I say, on that. Wow. That's such a great piece. I feel like if we could get more of that, girl, man, we're going to change the world.
And what's interesting is that this movie was released this year. It's not like this old...
What?
It was
released this is recent. Okay. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, you think... This is what we keep saying, is that people think these are such outdated ideas. Get over yourself.
It's still happening now.
It is still happening. It is still pervasive. And it's just so ingrained in our culture that we don't even actually realize it anymore.
And when are we going to change it? Is really the question. We really... are kind of just pointing to just, this is how powerful media is. Like, this isn't a light thing. You know, obviously, I think within social media, TikToks and your Instagrams, right, we definitely have exploded into, like, new ideas, new ideologies, new, you know, all types of people from all types of places, right? That's the beautiful and power of it. But is it centered enough on the truth? I feel that's where it gets a bit tricky, because the truth is far, and, you know, it's close sometimes, and then it's far again. So, you know, I feel like, you know, what's that bridge once again? Like, where are we gonna get that entertainment of, you know, more of these stories, right? Because that was a lot more of a commercialized film. If we're talking about mediums, you know, is it only gonna stay on social media where you just see the real coconuts? You know, let's see it in movies, let's see it in films, and I don't know what other mediums they are, but, you know, songs, music. I don't know what you wanna kind of outlook it on.
I just wanted to make an interesting commentary on the social media thing. Just in and I'm not particularly, I've just kind of gotten back onto social media, trying to give it a go. And within doing that, I just realized that social media evolves. And if I'm going to be honest, I think this is such an amazing time to be talking about this, because I think
It is.
what I found interesting about TikTok, because back in the days, Instagram was this polished, perfect feeds, pretty photos, editing, snapped, everything was polished.
Right.
And I think with TikTok changing up the game is that people, and Vine, as I love mentioning TikTok, but I think actually Vine kind of pioneered this.
Yeah.
I think Tumblr was the pioneer for
long ago.
Instagram.
Oh,
and
girl,
then
you're showing our age.
Vine.
Right?
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, the point that I'm making is that people started to thirst for authentic content.
Absolutely.
People telling true stories, vulnerability. And I think TikTok expanded that and opened that, because it really expanded what it looked like to be a successful social media creator. Back in the day, when you think of the OG social medias, it was the pretty pretty supermodel types, specific high-end photographer. It was about that polished image. Whereas now, if you look at the biggest TikTok stars, Instagram stars, well, not Instagram, but like TikTok, YouTube, it's not about the pretty backgrounds in the aesthetic. It's about what you are saying, how you are connecting to people, how you are telling your stories, how you're engaging with people. Like a couple of years ago, likes was the currency of your social standing. Likes on Instagram, now it's engagement, comments, sharing, and it shows that evolution of social media. So I think if any time was now to actually give your voice and give an authentic voice, it would be now. And I know that we keep talking about being careful about stereotypes and all of this other stuff and how dangerous and media can be. But this is also the prime time to give your voice to that conversation and actually represent yourself. And it's, in this day and age, it's being rewarded. We don't know how well, because social media seems to swing from a pendulum to a pendulum.
As we know.
Yeah. Extremes, one extreme to the next. It was the clean girl aesthetic, then it was the mob wife, then it was whatever. But I'm just saying that this is the right time to actually have these discussions. This is people want that authentic voice.
They really do. And I think this is kind of a takeaway, if you could say. We really do also want to challenge people, like, what mold do you want to fit in, right? Like, what's authentic to yourself? Like, who's the authentic self here sitting? I mean, I have to think about myself here, and I don't fit into any of those molds that I've seen on the media so far. I think American fiction really does do such a great job of hey, this needs to stop. What trap are you about to fall into when it comes to your image, or even just whatever label that gets printed on you? I think we need to have those tough conversations of hey, we actually don't fit into this, and we don't want to fit into this anymore. So I think kind of just summing up, the total Coconut experience so far, just from a local perspective, we need to see more. I want to kind of challenge the producers, the directors, anyone who has some sort of creative script on their hands, or even in music, medias, and acting, and I'm not going to spell out all the different departments of media, but
can I just pause and interrupt you?
Oh my gosh, what are you going to say? What?
When it comes to music.
Oh, music. Oh.
Sorry, no. It's a positive thing in my experience. And I'm just going to speak to
Sing
it.
with a white accent. I don't know. What's
I think from all the media forms, like the classic ones that we think of, like the classic media representations, I think music has been quite progressive, if I'm going to be honest, and a pioneer in that, because of you're getting a lot more black indie artists. You're getting a lot. It's not just that's what black music is.
Yeah.
The idea of what rap is looking like is starting to change. It's getting indie tones. It's getting mixed. You're getting a lot more heavy artists, heavy metal artists. I think the one area of progression that we still have to work on is country music. It is a bit problematic in terms of representation, and people are starting to realize, as a black artist, I can be a successful indie music. I can be a successful rocker. I can be a successul reggae artist. There's been more white reggae artists. I think, for me, in my experience of media representation, a place that I have felt comfortable in is my music expression, because I
Yes.
don't think,
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
yeah, I've shared music experiences with different people, and like I don't think that was a space that I particularly felt judged in. It was kind of just like this connection of, you know what, it's different, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, listen to my music. Let me try and convince you about this band. It became more social and conversational. Whereas with media, when you started to go, oh no, like I don't speak like this because of this, and it's just like, oh yeah, wink wink, yeah right. So where do you come from? Like,
And the story begins.
you're from the private schools, yeah. You're superficial. I don't want to hang out with you.
There we go. And I think, you know what I'm about to ask actually. Did you ever experience where, as your coconut self, have you ever experienced just trying to break into new groups? Have you noticed any differences with your music compared to perhaps should I say more black, whether it's a black female groups or whatnot that you were trying to break into? Did you notice any of like your music preferences were different to theirs? Like, has there been any? I've noticed with mine because, and this is, and I'm gonna speak from my perspective, is that, and I know this sometimes it can actually expose that I'm a coconut as well. Sometimes my music taste did actually do that. Yes, I could definitely get boogie into the nice house music, whatever you're blasting. I guess the nice kind of commercial stuff. But then, sometimes I also like my classical music, and sometimes I like my, as you said, like indie pop and whatnot. I feel like
there's just,
it kind of exposed me. Did you have any experiences with that? Did it make you, or did you even have the opportunity to even show your music? Where people are like, whose music is this? It sounds like it's from the Babs, Did you have any of that?
No, I think for me, what was fortunate for me is that I loved so many different genres of music. And I know this is going to sound, it's an interesting question to kind of bring forth about nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
In terms of my adoption, because I've got rhythm.
Yes,
so
you've got pace, girl.
I could still dance. And
Yes.
that, I think, gave me a little bit of leverage, because if house music came on and hip hop, I might not necessarily resonate with the lyrics or whatever, but I can kind of get into it. I can kind of do my thing.
Yeah.
I can fit in. And then like with indie, it's about feeling the music. It's about doing this. And I think in my experience is that, and I haven't judged other people for their music preferences. I've actually wanted them to show me different artists.
Yeah.
That's what I do with friends. It's just like, oh my gosh, did you know about this band? Oh my gosh, I didn't. Oh my gosh, girl, you have to get onto them. This one, this one, this one. It wasn't about that's for white people.
Yeah.
In other references, the only time I've actually had that reference is with food, with media, with clothing a little bit.
Yeah.
And then even in predominantly hip hop spaces, I think I was never made to feel any different. Even if I didn't particularly like the music, I still felt a part of.
There's something quite crazy in terms of also just, and it's going to point back to the power of media, right? Like you still felt inclusive in regardless of whatever music that you kind of touched on. And I think that's literally pointing to like how progressive music is technically, right? But you're so right on. I mean, I guess there's a stock experiences between you and I. I mean, you felt always included. I was always exposed.
I was going to say, I want an example of this.
I mean, yeah, it's always been like that. I mean, I've always, I've managed to merge into different genres, as you're saying. I also have quite a what's this, versatile kind of playlist, sort of. But there's always that like one song or that one genre that everybody's like, you listen to this, But yeah, once again, it's the power of media. It's really about what resonates to you. Hopefully they're just going to make the circle bigger on that. Right?
Yeah. And also it's kind of funny when you're talking about just the genres and maybe my experiences. I was reflecting back, and even I knew a girl that Stacey that was into heavy metal. I must admit the genre heavy metal is not my favorite. No. But in just talking to her and just actually being open to actually going to metal music experiences, I actually found a couple of songs that I enjoyed, and I was open to it because I think people forget that even in heavy metal, there's sub-genres of music. There's death heavy metal, there's funk heavy metal, there's all of these. There's so much opportunity in music to find your space. And even if you don't think you like, and I had these prejudices, I was like, oh, well, you know.
Oh, that's for me.
And then I actually found some songs that I was like, hang on, wait a minute, I can get down with this. And then it was amazing because we were at this office event and then they started playing heavy metal. And do you know how many black people lit up and was just like, do you remember the FCW, like those wrestler days?
Yes.
This is that kind of song. They were talking
Yeah.
about the champions that came through. Imagine the power of music with heavy metal, wrestling, connecting with a black South African audience. Do you understand the weight of that?
That's so much
and the
power.
connection of that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't this, this is
mind
just
our
so
business.
white, ha 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 ha. Like we teased a little bit. We were just like, well, this is not unusual music, but hey, remember this song?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Fall Out Boy. Oh my gosh, I remember
Paramore.
that
Yeah,
Paramore.
Green Day,
Like, and you
everybody.
wouldn't. It was coming from people that were from Cussies, from.
Yeah.
I actually feel embarrassed that I even just pronounced that word that way.
No.
Please do forgive me.
Girl, say it loud and proud. Kasi. Kasi. Okay. However we say it, it's still a word that needs to be said, okay?
And it's just amazing, that experience.
Yeah.
That is, to me, if we speak about media, that is a power and progressive, like, nature of music.
I love it. These are great stories. We hope to bring more people onto this. I think if we could bring artists, I mean, I'm sure they've had their own experiences of trying to break out of their own molds, especially if it's a multicultural kind of genre that they've had to break into that, you know, wasn't catered to their race. Who knows? I think there's so many stories that we can get from this. But let's start the conversation. Yes. That's what we want to do, right? All right, everybody. So, as you've heard, we've learned a lot. Media is a big place, a powerful tool. Obviously, there's just so many things we could learn from this subject, breaking the norms and I guess how can we move forward, right, in the representation of a coconut. But that might take like a full season with how many episodes we could go into depth about that. Don't you agree, Abs?
Yep.
Yes.
It's very extensive.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of forget how far media can actually connect to, like we've fashion, books, movies, television, radio. There's a lot.
All the things, man. And it's really important for us to just at least start.
Yeah.
Right? Let's start going in the right direction. Let's be more inclusive, should I say. And then I guess for our takeaway, what we really wanted to at least land with you guys is that don't try to fit in the norms. Don't try to fit in these stereotypes that they boxed you in. Okay, the media can be a great place and a cold place, right? And it's really important for you as the viewer, as the audience, to stand for who you are, okay? It might not be comfortable to a certain subgroup, to a certain audience, but it's who you are that needs to, you know, at least be valued at the end of the day.
Yes.
So, Abs, do you have anything on that?
Just to add on to that is that, and I kind of touched on this in speaking with how I kind of stood up for music. There is such beauty when we let go of stereotypes.
Yeah.
We listen to each other. We explore, we share, and just learn from each other. I think that fosters so much more connection than boxing ourselves into stereotypes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's start. As I've
Yes.
said, let's start. Let's get the party going. There's just so much freedom in it. So,
And if the time,
yeah.
it's the right time now with where we are in the
Absolutely.
media. I feel like it's definitely an absolute opportune moment for all of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
As you guys know, please subscribe, obviously, to our YouTube channel here at Coconut Chronicles ZA. Follow our socials. As we've said, it's only the TikTok one that is Coconut Chronicles on its own. Everything else is Coconut Chronicles ZA. Subscribe. Also, let us know if you've had any experiences where media has really impacted you as a coconut, you know, or has any stereotype of coconutism that has impacted you. You know, give us all the stories down below. We really want to hear it.
Just a reminder before we get excited about the media.
Yes.
We would love to hear your experiences, but please just remember that the comment section is
Ooh,
filled
yeah.
with. We always say this community is about respect, support, and
Exactly.
love. And Twitter, we're looking at you.
Yeah.
But yes, it is official that this will be our last episode
Can you believe?
of the year.
Yeah. So we'll see you in Feb. Is it
Feb.
Feb? Yeah.
Yeah.
you'll see us.
We'll keep you updated on our socials.
Yes, yeah. Please come and follow us for that. And we'll see you next time, guys.
And then we also just wanted to wish you a happy festive season and a happy new year.
I forgot about all of
Closing
this.
it.
I know.
And in true South African fashion, get December. Enjoy.
Exactly. See you guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.